Ninja Founder Commentary. June 15, 2026. A Bitcoin transaction that was supposed to be confirmed turned out not to exist, and Syscoin Bridge lost $10 million. Bybit, Radiant, Resolv, and now Syscoin. The loss amounts and the tech stacks differ, but the mistake underneath is the same: trust a single source, and put no third-party observer in place. This piece is written to drive one more nail into that repetition. The external primary source is Halborn's postmortem on the Syscoin Bridge hack. Just the facts. On June 8, 2026, Syscoin Bridge, the Bitcoin to Syscoin cross-chain bridge, lost roughly $10 million. The core issue, a flaw in the SPV, simple payment verification, proof verification logic. The attacker is unattributed. The status is under investigation. The attacker submitted a forged SPV proof that presented a non-existent Bitcoin transaction as confirmed, and the bridge contract accepted it and released the assets. From submission to completed outflow, everything happened within the same transaction, or a few blocks. There was no moment where a human stepped in. What is SPV? To confirm a Bitcoin transaction is really recorded, the proper way is to hold every block, hundreds of gigabytes, and verify it yourself, full node verification. That's heavy, it won't fit on a phone, and a contract on another chain can't carry it. So from the beginning, Bitcoin offered SPV, hold only the block headers, and use the Merkle path inside them to prove, lightly, that a transaction is included. Bridges favor SPV for 3 reasons. It's light, even a contract can verify it. It's fast, the proof takes little data. And it removes the human, the decision rests only on the proof's mathematical correctness, so no validator approver is needed. That last point shaped this incident. The instant there's a hole in the proof verification logic, there is no one left to stop it. In plain terms, 3 things were missing. First, the depth checking on the Merkle proof was weak. The convention is to wait for enough blocks, typically 6 confirmations, before treating a Bitcoin transaction as final, but Syscoin Bridge accepted a shallow proof, and the attacker slipped a forgery into that gap. Second, the block header validity checking was weak. Whether the proof of work difficulty reached the expected level, whether the header really belongs to Bitcoin's main chain, that cross-checking was insufficient. The attacker built a formally consistent header and got the system to confirm only that the Merkle path passed. Third, there was no circuit breaker, no automatic halt on large withdrawals, no hold on anomalous patterns. Once a proof passed, 10 million was released as is. Syscoin Bridge was designed to trust the proof if its shape lines up, and never looked at whether the world the proof points to actually holds. This is not new. March 2022, Ronin Bridge lost 624 million, with 5 of 9 validator keys taken. February 2022, Wormhole lost 326 million, to a bug in signature verification. And June 2026, Syscoin lost 10 million, to a hole in SPV proof verification. The shape of each loss differs: stolen keys, a signature bug, a proof hole. But the one thing in common: a bridge's weakest layer is always the verification of the verification. A bridge's job is to guarantee consistency between 2 chains, yet it confirms that consistency from one side only. The lesson from Ronin didn't reach Wormhole, and wormholes didn't reach Syscoin. This industry has no mechanism for learning across cases. Here the main argument begins. February 2025, Bybit lost $1.5 billion, all 3 signers looking at the same poison screen. Radiant was the same, 3 people staring at one safe wallet, making a $50 million decision. Resolv, contaminated. The moment Resolv itself was contaminated, every protocol treating it as its single source of truth was contaminated at once, with no independent second source anywhere. And now Syscoin. This time it isn't even about multi-sig. One contract looked at one SPV proof and released. Single source trust simply came back in another form. Multi-sig imitated only the surface of the right idea. 3 of 11, 4 of 9, 5 of 7, the numbers look impressive. But if all 3 are looking at the same poison screen, it means nothing. Multi-sig requires multiple private keys. It never required multiple independent sources of information. The SPV bridge went one step further, removing even the keys, betting fully on the proof's mathematical correctness alone. But the structure is identical. If observation converges to one, then whether you hold 3 keys or one proof, you fall into the same hole. Multi-sig decentralizes the count. It does not decentralize the observation. Now the answer Web 2 spent 50 years reaching. When banks evaluate real estate collateral, they cross-check for independent sources, published land prices, an appraisal, a physical inspection, and comparable transactions. If one lies, the other 3 catch it. For large transfers, they confirm through separated channels, look at the screen, call the counterparty, keep an email trail, sign a physical form. And after Germany's Herstatt Bank collapsed in 1974, exploiting the time difference in FX settlement, the Basel Committee was founded that same year to institutionalize cross-industry monitoring. Multiple sources, separated channels, cross-industry monitoring. The reason is simple, not because people and institutions can't be trusted, but because any one of them, alone, is weak. This is where the good part of decentralization lives. Web 3 tends to think decentralization means removing the central governor, and as a result, it neglected to decentralize observation. The real value of decentralization isn't removing authority, it's multiplying observation and verification. That's the whole essence of Bitcoin 2. It keeps running because miners are distributed and independently verify the same block. If the verifier were a single entity, then whether it's proof of work or proof of stake, it would mean nothing. Yet the bridge layer forgets this. Syscoin Bridge sits on top of a decentralized Bitcoin, but whether a Bitcoin transaction exists on the main chain was watched by a single contract on the Syscoin side. Single source trust, built on top of a decentralized world. That is the opposite of decentralization. You can remove the central governor, but you must not remove the observer too. Map the incident onto a 3-axis frame. Transparency. Web 2's verification sits in closed internal ledgers, invisible to users. Web 3's code is visible, but the edge cases of the verification logic can't be read. Composability. Swift, the rough equivalent of a bridge, has multi-stage human approval and account reconciliation. Here, Bitcoin, Syscoin, and EVM autojoin, and the boundary is the attack surface. And time to finality. Bank withdrawals settle on a value date basis, hours to days of room to stop the bleeding. Here, 10 million flows into a mixer within tens of minutes, unrecoverable. Web 3 decentralized the ledger and, as the price, deliberately removed the governor with authority to stop. But what it should have removed was the agent of final rollback, not the agent of observation. This incident blurred that boundary. 3 lessons. 1. An SPV proof is proof of existence, not verification of existence. You need an independent cross-check between the proof and reality. 2. A bridge's weakest layer is always the verification of the verification. Ronin, wormhole, Syscoin, the shape differs, but the hole is in the same place. 3. Bybit, Radiant, Resolv, Syscoin. Single source trust keeps repeating in new forms. I've written this many times, and I'll keep writing it. The problem Web 2 finance solved 50 years ago is not one Web 3 meant to abandon. So what does Ninja do here? Not become a card network like Visa or MasterCard, the governor of settlement. That seat we leave deliberately empty, for the sake of decentralization. The seat we want is the one Fico Falcon took, running alongside the card networks. Since its commercialization in 1992, Falcon has scored card transactions across the industry for 30 years, while leaving the authorize or decline authority with the issuing bank. Separation of observation and intervention. That is what 30 years of Web 2 finance learned. And the 90 million EVM contracts Ninja has analyzed are the Web 3 version of cross-industry intelligence, because the patterns seen at Ronin arriving at Wormhole on a lag, and never reaching Syscoin, means cross-industry observation did not exist in this industry. What Ninja takes on, in the normative form. Layer 1, deterministic, the formal consistency of the SPV proof, matching against past attack patterns, detecting bias in proof depth, detecting test patterns just before submission. Layer 2, LLM assisted, reading a proof pointing at a transaction that doesn't exist on Bitcoin's main chain as meaning, catching the divergence from design intent that formal consistency alone can't see. Delivery, via API and MCP, callable from wallets, bridges, and agents with anonymous access and no registration, the same spirit as when Falcon supported the standard message format, pushing integration friction near zero. The governing side, Shogun, policy as code, so when proof depth is below a threshold and withdrawal is above a threshold, autofire a hold and a multi-sig requirement. And authority, none. We don't hold an admin key, we don't rewrite contracts, we can't roll back a release. We return a score and its basis, the decision stays with the operator. Accuracy, latency, and false positive rate are to be proven via proof of concept, not promised up front, and we stand on the side that builds the integration and verifies them together. At Bybit, at Resolv, I've said this. The same now, put a third-party observer in place, and don't trust a single source. No matter how many times I write it, it's not enough. Try Ninjascan by sending any contract address to the bot on Telegram. Operators who want to verify accuracy on real incident data have a window to do it together on a proof-of-concept basis. Remove the governor if you must. But never remove the observer. See you next time.